Hi friends, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Here's what we're discussing today. I apologize. I decided last night I needed to make this video. I owe you all an apology. I have to apologize both for having a predisposing bias as well as for letting that bias infect my analysis of the Baldwin case. My initial take was that the rounds were not relevant. Many of you have raised the idea that it showed a bias on the part of the prosecution, and that therefore it was relevant and potentially exculpatory. Given the fact that those rounds didn't have much to do with the shooting, the fact that they were from a different set and all, I thought was something that should have weighed more heavily in the analysis. But I've come to accept that there is an argument to be made for it being used as impeachment for bias, even though I don't believe it would have been very effective impeachment. But because the defense gets to decide what's relevant and what's impeachment, I was wrong. I freely admit that. That doesn't change the fact that I think Baldwin should have been prosecuted or that I think he was negligent. That's my opinion. I know it's based on my bias against Baldwin, and my bias against Baldwin is based on his treatment of his daughter, Ireland. In 2007, Baldwin was having his custody dispute with his ex-wife, Kim Basinger, and 11-year-old Ireland missed a scheduled phone call with Alec Baldwin. So he left a scorching voicemail that said, "You don't have the brains or decency as a human being. I don't give a damn if you're 12 years old or 11 years old or that you're a child," he said in that voicemail. "I'll let you know how I really feel about what a thoughtless little pig you are. You are a rude little pig, okay?" That's an exact quote. Now, when you try to hurt your ex-wife by talking trash to your kid, demeaning them, tearing them down, you don't earn any respect from me. Now, the fact that, he left that voicemail, that would never have been admissible in trial, and so it should have had absolutely nothing to do with how I analyzed this case. Again, when you have an implicit bias, a lot of times you are blinded to the idea that you have this bias, and it definitely affects how you think about certain things. But I should not have let that profound bias influence my opinion, or at the very least, I should have probably disclosed it. And it did infect my analysis of the case. And for the record, although I have now concluded that I am wrong, I would point out that at least one other lawyer on here had said pretty much the same thing with respect to the relevance issue. That was Andrew Branca. I noticed last night as I was doing additional research here that he and I sort of shared the same opinion on that issue. It's not like I was completely unreasonable in having this opinion to begin with, although clearly I should have taken some time and thought a lot longer and a lot harder about this before I made that video. As I've thought back about this case, a criticism I voiced early on made all of this sort of come full circle for me. I said that Morrissey was trying this case like the last case she won, the Hannah Gutierrez Reed case. And in the Hannah Gutierrez Reed case, it was necessary to have a lot more crime scene evidence and a lot more expert witnesses and things like that. I was right when I said that she didn't need that in this case. All she had to do was structure her case better, pare it down, put in the minimal amount of evidence necessary to get a conviction. You don't want to swat a fly with a sledgehammer, and essentially the way her case was structured, she was trying to swat that fly with a sledgehammer. So she could have established that Baldwin had possession of the gun because he told the first cop that we saw testify, that he was holding the gun when it went off. And she could have put that in and then passed the witness. And then if the other side wanted to beat him up for no reason, they could have. Then you call Souza, who was shot, and you have him go through what happened, what he saw. And any of the other witnesses who actually saw the shooting, if they can testify that he had his finger through the trigger, well, then Again, all of those people would be relevant witnesses, and you do it short and sweet, and you get in and you get out. You lay a foundation, you get in, you get out. That's all you do. That could have been very effective. And then you call the medical examiner and you get in the autopsy, short definitive statements of what killed Hutchins, and then you end with the set medic, that very emotional witness from the Hannah Gutierrez Reed trial. If the other side wants to call your other witnesses, like the CSI and the investigating cop and all of that, then let them do it. But the CSI was a bad witness. And many of you have made that observation, that she came off as arrogant, and she was always kind of tilting her head up and looking, I don't know, she had a demeanor about her that was off-putting. And all of you, or not all of you, I guess, but most of you picked up on that. And I thought she was a bad witness. And I thought the first cop was a bad witness, not because he didn't know anything, but because he just was completely flat. I thought he was not very effective as a witness because he didn't show any emotion. He didn't really make eye contact. He looked away, and I don't think he made a good case for the jury. The case was, first of all, too long, and second of all, it had too many bad witnesses. Now, Morrissey didn't have any control over how good or bad the witnesses could have been, but a better structure might have made this error easier for her to defend. It isn't defensible, but it would have been easier to defend. Given that this is actually a negligence-based crime, I think it's probably even more important for the judge to have ruled the way that she did. And I don't know that her ruling now, I really have to walk back my statement that her ruling was a bad ruling. Up until last night, like I said, I couldn't wrap my head around this idea that the information about the other cartridges was impeaching. But then someone pointed out that all the defense was doing this whole time was asking pointless questions. Well, at least they were pointless to me. I said they were trying to confuse, misdirect, delay, deny, and defend, and I truly believe that. And if I do believe that, then certainly it could have been used as impeachment. I was wrong to gloss over that. The reason they put erasers on pencils is because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes errors. I try hard not to make errors, but in spite of good intentions, as we all know, the road to hell is littered with good intentions. Sometimes, because of implicit bias, I make them. I ask you to forgive this one. It's not like most of the work on this channel, and I will try very hard not to repeat it. Now, for the record, I still think the judge is not a particularly good judge. In my opinion, she rushed to judgment at the end of the hearing, and her mind was made up long before Morrissey took the stand. And a good judge processes all the information. And they don't react quickly. They don't react in a snap fashion. I had the pleasure of working with one really great judge in Kansas City. His name was Tom Clark. He was from Jackson County in Kansas City, and he was a great judge, and I learned a lot from him. He was always willing to sit down with me with a cup of coffee and offer up observations from the last trial he had, what the lawyers did right, what they did wrong. He was the judge who appointed me as defense counsel in my first criminal case, and I can tell you that Judge Clark would, I'm 99% sure, have reached the same conclusion that this judge did. So why am I complaining? Because when he received testimony that made him angry, he absolutely refused to rule from the bench. He refused to put in a transcript angry words because he knows that appellate courts look for angry words. He would have sent the jury in the Baldwin case home, and he would have gone home himself and touched the grass, kissed the wife, talked to the kids. He would have come back the next day, written an order that basically said, the defense's motion to dismiss is granted, and it is granted with prejudice. And then he would have let the chips fall where they may, because he would have duly considered all the arguments at that point. We expect judges to be neutral. And again, this is my opinion. I do not believe this judge was neutral. It's my opinion that she is sort of biased against women, and that's based on the observations of her demeanor. You can feel free to disagree with me, but given how she treated Hannah Gutierrez Reed, and how she treated Ms. Morrissey, there's some evidence to suggest that perhaps she has a bone to pick with women. And remember, that's just my opinion. It's not a statement of fact. And in spite of what I think about her judicial temperament, she made the right decision. Anything that is close to the line, like a tie in baseball goes to the runner, a tie in the evidence or a tie in a situation like this goes to the defendant. As a country, we believe that it is better for 100 men to go free than for one innocent man to be sentenced to jail for something he did not do. And while we know that he did kill Hutchins, his negligence was never proved, and that's on the state, not on the judge. But more importantly, it's a shot across the bow of the prosecution generally. Play fair or suffer the consequences. As I said before, it's sometimes hard to separate bias from reason. I try to do it, but I'm not always successful. So again, I ask for your forgiveness on this issue, and I promise I'm going to try to do a lot better next time. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have the opportunity today, do something kind. Help somebody out. Maybe give a guy a little forgiveness. And then come on back down here tomorrow and catch me at the beach, and we'll talk about something else. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.